I'm Bill Blackburn, Mayor of Kerrville, and I invite you to this conference once again. Community leadership meet at 9 o'clock on Thursday mornings. Talk about updates in regard to the virus and what's happening, what we need to do, what we need to share with each other and help each other with. And then at 10:30, we come to share information with you. Again, updates about what's going on so that people are just thoroughly informed. I don't want to talk about the coronavirus anymore. I do not want to talk about COVID-19, but we need to. What we hoped would be a sprint is turning out to be a marathon. We had wished this would all be over with the coming of warm weather. It isn't. Ever taken a long trip with children in the back seat? They ask maybe repeatedly, "How much longer, Daddy or Mother?" Or they ask, "Are we there yet?" There are a lot of people asking these days, how much longer? But we don't know. It looks like a vaccine is a long way away. And then there are the logistics of getting 327 million Americans vaccinated. So perseverance is needed, going the distance, and we need to keep doing the basics to fight this virus and stay healthy. A central question in the face of the coronavirus is, what is my control, or what is in my control? What can you and I do to keep healthy? Stay home as much as possible, wash hands, eat healthy, exercise, wipe surfaces, stay in touch with friends and family, have some fun. When you go out, wear a mask and observe social distancing and avoid groups of 10 or more. And there are some pretty neat masks out there. I'm still looking for a Tivy Fight Never Dies mask. Now, a word to the healthy. And yes, I'm repeating here what I have said in recent weeks. If you are healthy, do not think it cannot happen to you. It can. But wear a mask in public and keep your distance. If not for yourself, please keep from infecting others. You can have the virus and not even know it, not even have symptoms, but you're a carrier. I've talked to people with real fear because they have an underlying medical condition. I heard from a woman whose husband is medically fragile. So when she goes to the grocery store and sees all the people without masks, she is so afraid that as she goes home, she is not only bringing groceries, but also sickness and maybe death. And there are parents with medically fragile children. They're being very careful. So to the healthy, protect yourselves, but also protect others. To you who believe you're invulnerable, you aren't. And when you're out crowding up with others and no mask, you could become a statistic. This virus has brought down people of all ages and stations in life. I'm a preacher, and there are some dead preachers who declared that God would not let them die by this virus. Finally, I want to brag on this group of community leaders that are meeting weekly through this process. We meet once a week to keep everyone up to date, to see what help each needs, and talk over decisions and responses. And they listen to people in the community and in their various settings, and they study to stay up with what this virus is doing and what we can do in preparation and response. And their commitment is to see this community come out strong, all the citizens of Kerr County. At this time, I am going to ask our Kerrville Fire Chief, Danny Smith, if he would bring us up to date where we are in regard to this fight against the virus. And if Jeremy would come in from the city's emergency management office and share something about the testing that is going on today. Chief Smith.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon to everyone and to our community. So I'll start with an update on the COVID-19 cases in Kerr County. As most of you are aware of by now, we, since our last update to the community, we now have our confirmed 9th and 10th COVID-19 case in Kerr County. Both the 9th and 10th cases are a result of the May 2nd mobile testing done by the Texas Military Department. On May 2nd, there was a total of 107 tests conducted. 98 of those tests were returned negative. There were 3 positive test results, and 6 test results are still pending from the May 2nd date. This may be a little confusing, but we're trying to work through it with the state. They were actually in Kerrville for a second round of testing on May 8th. That testing cycle is totally completed ahead of the May 2nd date. On May 8th, the state conducted a total of 116 tests, and we have received confirmation that all 116 tests were returned negative. Next, I want to talk just a little about a mandate that's been issued statewide to all communities regarding COVID-19 testing. On Monday, May 11th, the governor issued an order that 100% of the staff and residents at nursing homes be COVID-19 testing. This task was initially designated to the Texas Military Department's mobile testing units, which recently conducted the May 2nd and May 8th testing at the Kroc Center. And that unit is in operation today at the Youth Event Center. They'll be there from 9 to 5. To follow up with that, on yesterday, the governor asked that the fire service lead this effort within their respective communities. So immediately, the Kerrville Fire Department, working with Peterson Regional Medical Center, will begin surveying nursing homes in our community and devising a plan to accomplish this task. We're thankful that Peterson has already done an extensive amount of work with nursing homes in our community to get a head start on accomplishing this. A preliminary survey shows that to complete this task, we have approximately 655 nursing home residents and staff members that will require this test. Our goal, working with Peterson, is to have a plan of action developed by close of business tomorrow, Friday, May 15th, and start the testing process on Monday, May 18th. The state has asked that we have this completed within the next 12 days, and we're going to do our very best to accomplish that. In closing, I would just like to remind the community that the Texas Military Department is conducting COVID-19 testing at the Youth Event Center today from 9 to 5. They've been averaging somewhere in the neighborhood of 105 to 115 tests per day. As of 9:30 this morning, we only had 55 individuals registered to be tested today. So if you're showing any signs or symptoms of the possibly COVID-19, we strongly suggest that you register and make your way out to the Youth Event Center to get the test done. There appears to be room available to do that. You can schedule for a COVID-19 test at the Youth Event Center today by going online at TX COVID test. That's all one word, TX, COVID test.org. Or you can contact the Texas Military Department at 512-883-2400. And with that, that completes my report, Mayor. I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, good. Thank you. Before I go to Gil Salinas, I was asked online if I have my mask. I have my mask right here, but we are in individual rooms, or if there's somebody else in the room, we are social distancing. It just works better that way for this. Gil Salinas, Director of the Kerr Economic Development Corporation.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the community. At the Kerr Economic Development Corporation, we're now shifting our efforts to reopening the Kerrville economy. That's a huge step in the direction of stabilizing our local business atmosphere. So I'm going to start with the Paycheck Protection Program loans. And there's been a lot of buzz about that recently. So we're happy to announce that of the seven of our local banks reported that they fielded and approved 958 loans in the Hill Country region, totaling nearly $100 million in funds. Now, of that, 60 million came to actual Kerrville businesses by way of 585 loans. So that's basically money has been infused into our economy, into our local economy, really just in a span of 3 weeks. So, and that number coincides with our survey of nearly 200 businesses in town, of which more than 50% said that they had applied for the funds. The majority of those businesses were approved for funding. So now, for a community our size, that is a significant boost. It might not be the almighty solution that we're looking for as far as our current state of the economy, but it definitely helps in bridging the gap during this pandemic, and really it should be looked at as a shot on the arm. Now, I know that we've received calls from businesses that have been asking if they should use the money or send it back, thinking that it might not be turned into a grant. And that might be the case for some businesses out there. So our advice is please use your best judgment, and only you know your business and its trajectory path, your strengths and your weaknesses. But if you have decided to use the funds, then the next step is to start really looking at turning those loans into forgivable loans, basically grants or free money. So there is a process you need to follow, and you can look at that particular application process on kerrvilletogether.com, where you can find more information on that, and also the state's guidance as how to work on that particular application, and also what expenditures are eligible for your operation. Now, a little bit on travel and tourism. This summer, things might perk up a little bit for Kerrville in the sense that experts are predicting that tourists are a bit too nervous to travel away far from home. So 82% of Americans have already changed their travel plans for the next 6 months. That is according to Longwoods International. However, people do want to get out, especially with kids. And I know because I speak, on behalf of having 3 boys as well. So we're expecting a boom of road trips here in the very near future in the next few months, which puts Kerrville, which is already in a central and a very attractive part of the state, in a very good position, really in a great position to land some of these family vacationers. So let's keep our hopes up that we're going to be able to get our share of visitors, and for business owners to be able, for you all to do your part to get some of this business traffic. Now, on the Over the Fence podcast that's going to air later today, Teresa Metcalf from our team, she's going to be interviewing Heidi Mills. She is a co-founder of Innovator Academy, which is an Acton affiliate out of Boston. This episode is going to provide a little bit of insight into how they're teaching their students a little bit of conflict resolution and out-of-the-box problem solving. So between what this academy is doing, Dr. Faust and the Kerrville ISD, and some of the area schools, I can't wait to see how this is really going to pay dividends for our community in the very near future. Now, a little bit on resiliency. I am encouraged to see somewhat of stability in our initial tax stream. And again, these numbers are very, very preliminary. It was only a 2.9% decrease. But I'm also encouraged to see some of the traffic in our city. So that's reflective of that 50% rule, which allows us to open up at a faster pace, and also the fact that we're a hub. So we're attracting shoppers and visitors from outside the city and outside really the county. And that is really the key to building a diverse and a resilient economy, importing money into our community by external sources. But we do need to be careful. So in closing, at the KEDC, as far as economic development, we are shifting our efforts to reopening the Kerrville economy. But we all need to do our part to support local business, invest in our entrepreneurs. Business owners need to be a little diverse and nimble during these times, and it's easier said than done. And everybody, every member of our community, we need to do our best, knowing that we probably are going to be getting some vacationers and some visitors and shoppers from the outside. We all need to do our best to practice social distancing, just like the mayor said, as we're out there supporting our local business community. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Gil. Let me tell you the order for the remainder of the conference here. Judge Kelly will share with us, and then Superintendent of KISD, Mark Faust, and then Corey Edmondson, CEO of Peterson Health, and then Tim Rye, also Peterson Health, becoming as board chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, and then last, Mark McDaniel, city manager. So Judge Kelly.
Yes, at the county level, what we have to report, other than trying to balance a budget, and I'm sure everybody's heard about that, the Office of Court Administration has issued an order to reopen our justice system for in-person hearings. I think most people are familiar with the fact that all in-person hearings and jury trials have been suspended for the last 2 months. The plan is to reopen the courthouse to accommodate these in-person hearings as well as jury trials on June 1. And to do that, we have been asked through the Texas Supreme Court and the Office of Court Administration to come up with operating plans as to how we might open it up. As you know, our courthouse is unique because it's an old courthouse and we have 6 courts in that building. We have 2 justices of the peace, a county court at law judge, 2 district judges, as well as my own court. And because of that, we're not sure what the scope of the authority of the OCA is, or the Texas Supreme Court, but they are telling us the precautions that we're going to have to take when we order people to come in. When we order people to appear for jury duty, to appear with a subject to a subpoena as a witness or even as a defendant, they're compelled to do that. We have the legal authority to issue those types of orders. And because of that, we have to be very sensitive as to the circumstances that we expose people to. And I will tell you that for those of you that watched the YouTube of the Commissioners Court meeting on Monday, you will see that there are sharp disagreements about how far some of our commissioners think that the state should be able to go in regulating what we do at that courthouse. One of the problems is that our hallways on the lower floor, the first floor, the second floor, are de facto waiting rooms. And so we're going to have to protect the public as they come in. We're going to have screening processes to ask people of all the various symptoms of COVID-19 before they enter the building. Everyone's temperature is going to have to be taken before they can enter a courtroom. Courtrooms are going to have to be cleaned after each hearing or each trial. For people that are in the courthouse for prolonged periods of time, in other words, if you're on jury duty and you're there all day, you're at the courthouse for more than just an hour or so, they're going to require that mask be worn. We have to have sanitation stations to sanitize regular locations. We're going to have to provide tissues for people. This is going to be a major and onerous and expensive undertaking that's being required here. Each one of the judges have contributed to our local administrative judge, Judge Emerson, our proposed plans for our courtrooms. He will then put together a plan for all of us, which will be submitted to the regional administrative judge, which is Judge Abels, who will be responsible for enforcing the plans on behalf of the Office of Court Administration in the Texas Supreme Court. So there's more regulations, if you will, coming, and we're going to have to be prepared for it. I will tell you that for the last 2 months, I tease people that I'm an old dog, but I have learned one new trick. I have learned Zoom, just as we are here today. And that's the way I've conducted all of my mental health, juvenile, and probate hearings for the last 2 months. This order does permit those of us that can utilize Zoom to continue to do so. But you can imagine for a jury trial, that's simply an impossibility. One of the things that we're looking at is possibly using the Hill Country Youth Event Center because of its size to be able to afford the appropriate social distancing to be able to bring in a jury panel to try to impanel a jury. The Youth Event Center has been very helpful, not only with our COVID testing that we had out there before. The National Guard is going to be out there again. We're looking to use it for possibly being able to conduct some of our jury trials. I share this with the public just so that you know that there's more coming. As the mayor said, we'd like for this to be over, but it's simply not. And so as we do this, you can expect those of you that have to participate in the justice system at the courthouse, that there will be regulations and there will be people having to comply with the rules that are put in place. else. So I just ask you to be patient with us. We're doing this for the public good, and we are trying to accommodate and protect everybody's health, as well as be able to administer justice in a fair manner. So that's what we have to report at the county level. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you, Judge. Now, Dr. Faust from KISD.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of updates for our community. We have roughly 10 days of school remaining in our calendar, and so we're working on end of the year closeout activities. Our classes have scheduled awards events, some of them taking place this week actually, and our 5th grade graduations will take place the last week of the school year. And those are drive-through graduation ceremonies to recognize those 5th graders and their milestone. The other important topic I'd love to share with the community, a few more details, would be our graduation ceremony. So with the governor's order, we are permitted to have our originally scheduled outdoor graduation ceremony on May 29th at 8 p.m., which is the traditional schedule. But the ceremony itself will be a little less traditional. So the time and place we're able to keep. We have roughly 320 graduates, and that means that we have 320 families that will be represented in the ceremony. According to the governor and TEA's guidance, maximum number of participants per family, or per graduate, I should say, is 5 family members. So we will have groups of 5 spread around the entire Antler Stadium in various sections, making sure that we're honoring all of the guidance and the safety precautions from the governor and from TEA on hosting an outdoor in-person ceremony. We will have 320 assigned seating areas for those graduates' families, both in the stands on the home and visitor side and on the track at Antler Stadium. Some of the cheese movers for folks, we're going to ask, because we have to screen and take many of the precautions that Judge Kelly just shared, we're going to have to screen every group of families as they come in. We're going to have to sanitize and have those hand sanitizing stations as they come in. We're going to have to queue those families and space them out so that we maintain the 6-foot halo around each group as they queue and enter and exit the stadium. We're going to ask that all those groups arrive together in their group of 5 as a family unit, and that they ride together in one vehicle as a family unit. So we're limiting the amount of parking spaces we have available. We're spacing those out into different areas as much as we possibly can to accommodate the 320 groups. And so there's just some nuances to pulling this ceremony off, but maintaining all the expectations and the guidance from the governor and from TEA. Safety is our primary concern. Hosting an event and celebrating the class of 2020 is also incredibly important, but we have to do this in a way that keeps our participants safe, and that also keeps the community safe, that there's no fallout from this event. I would add, we are asking that all of our guests, our participants, provide their own face masks for this event, their own PPE. So we are not planning on providing that to the community members as they come into the families. They need to provide that, but they will be expected. The guidance does call for our audience members to wear those masks as they are entering, exiting, and moving about the stadium. So that's another expectation to maintain safety at this outdoor event. So there are many more details to come. We're going to put all of those details in writing. It will take a tremendous number of staff for us to put this together in a very organized way for our community and for our audience. But we want to reassure the community that we're taking every precaution that we can and following all the guidance to a T, including the 6-foot halo and maintaining those distances while we're entering in and exiting the stadium. And we just want our community to know there's a great amount of thought and detail going into carrying off this type of event and meeting all the expectations that have been provided for us. Very strict guidance, but we are confident that we can meet all of it. That's all we have.
All right, good. Thank you, Dr. Faust.
Sir.
And now at this time, if we could hear from the CEO of Peterson Health, Corey Edmondson.
Thank you, Mayor. As of this morning, Peterson Health has tested 714 patients to date. 35 of those are still pending. As you know, those are Peterson Health tested patients, and as Chief Smith had already indicated, the Texas National Guard has tested some as well. So between Peterson and the Texas National Guard, there have been 937 people tested in Kerr County or in this area. When you take that in consideration with the positive cases that have come out of that, we're running a rate of roughly 1% case rate versus the state's case rate of 7%. We're doing well, but that doesn't mean let down our guard. And as everybody has stated here, we need to take precautions and continue to do the right thing and guard ourselves and others against this disease. Today, we have no one admitted in the hospital that we're treating with COVID-19. Texas as a whole has now 42,403 cases. That's well over 7,900 more cases from last week. I will tell you that that's a higher positive case rate in Texas than they had the week before. So there's like an uptick overall in the state. So we want to continue to be precautious of that. The death rate is 1,158. That's 210 more deaths than there were last week. And that's a little bit down on average than what it was the previous week. That's a downward trend in general. Peterson Health, just notes of interest. We are continuing to do the screening and testing at our urgent care center. And again, you can schedule that time if you're symptomatic at 258-7814. Peterson Health is fully operational. We continue to try to manage that and mitigate all the things that we can. So the hospital is operational. Our ambulatory care areas, physical therapy and radiology services are operational. We're scheduling surgery cases on a continuous basis. Doctors' offices are available. Keep in mind that they're managing the risk of sick versus well. And also a reminder that those doctors are required by the Texas Medical Board to have face masks for themselves, and the patients are supposed to wear face masks for patient-centered or facing cases. So bring your face mask, be aware of that, and moving forward. We're still abiding by the visitation rules that the Health and Human Services Commission has put us under, and that's still in effect until August the 6th. As far as your health care in general, we're seeing sicker patients in the ED and in our doctor's offices, and I believe that's a result of delayed care from COVID-19, people not wanting to get out and do that. I just continue to encourage you to take care of yourself and seek care from your primary care provider or whoever to care for yourself. This week is National Hospital Week. We celebrated National Nurses Week last week that I reminded you, and now we're celebrating National Hospital Week. We're excited about that. We're doing things internally to celebrate each other and all, but if you know somebody that works in healthcare at a hospital or Peterson Health, give them a call, give them an email, or give them a shout out for the things that they're doing and celebrate with us for National Hospital Week. Give you a preamble of next week. I'm going to invite my Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Mac Blanton, to this call or to this event. He's going to talk about antibody testing, the pros and cons, and try to respond to some of the inquiries that the community or even the public is asking about antibody tests. And should I get one? Should I not? Where can I get it? What are the pros to it? We'll tell you more about that in next week's video conference. Continue to visit our website at www.petersonhealth.com for the latest news on COVID-19 and what we're doing and just generally speaking as a whole. Continue to encourage you to be diligent in your efforts to take care of yourself and take care of the community and be proactive in making sure that we mitigate any positive cases here in Kerrville and Kerr County. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Corey. And now let's go to Tim Rye, again of Peterson Health, speaking today as Chairman of the Board of Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, everyone. The activity at the Chamber we've been pretty busy through all of this. We've had many inquiries from local businesses anything from how to navigate the PPP to ideas on how to change your business practices in response to COVID. And I've been very impressed with the creativity and the seriousness that local business owners are taking in trying to keep the community safe. I know last week we had a new round of businesses that have been waiting to be open that are very excited to get going and represent a large base of our membership. And it looks like people are doing what they need to be doing on the business side to keep the community safe and still get their businesses back online. The message today is we're here for you guys. Don't be afraid to reach out. There's been a lot of questions that some business owners need clarity on or help interpreting with some of these governor's orders, and we're doing everything we can to help navigate and guide you through that. And I'd also like to say to some of the businesses that might not be chamber members, call as well. We're here for you as well. Our goal at the end of the day is to make sure that all the local small businesses in this community have a resource that can help them navigate through all these situations. So don't be a stranger and don't be afraid to reach out to us and assume we won't help you just because you're not a member. And then lastly, in terms of our membership dues that keep, each month various businesses have their renewals come due. And by and large, we've seen positive that members are staying on board. Every now and then there's a member who wants help with maybe paying that late or getting creative with some options to break that up. And we're glad to work through any of those scenarios with members who might need that type of help. All you got to do is ask, and we're here to help. So that's my report.
Okay, thank you. I'm Mark McDaniel, City Manager for Kerrville. Just a few remarks to wrap this up. So I think from what you're hearing from everybody today, we've really pivoted our focus on recovery while still protecting public health through more aggressive testing, and we'll continue to do that, but also taking appropriate precautions because, as the mayor has said, that we're not out of this yet. I also want to elaborate a little bit on the Paycheck Protection Program that Gil Salinas talked about. Our local businesses have taken significant advantage of that program, and I think it's going to help us as a community, both in the short and long term. And I also want to point out that there's still money available. And in fact, the state has its own Paycheck Protection Program that you can access, and there's still money left. The average forgivable loan that they're making is about $36,000. Individuals or businesses that have not taken advantage of that, I encourage them to go to liftfund.com and make application. That's liftfund.com. It's a pretty simple process, all online with that micro lender that's contracted with the state. All city buildings are now open with social distancing and extra sanitation measures in place. Our pool will reopen on the 16th. We're training lifeguards now. I believe I mentioned that last week. Our focus here at the city is looking at our finances and making sure that we can keep our services going this year and next year. So despite some major cuts that we've made this year and then a very austere budget that we are looking at for next year, we'll be able to provide the quality services that our citizens have become accustomed to. On the budget front, taxes are a concern. With the appraisals done back in January before COVID-19 really ballooned here. Values arguably are not quite as high now. So the council has taken action to send a letter and a resolution to the state asking them to perhaps look at last year's values as opposed to increases in values this year. We have not received word on that yet, but I know that all of you have either received notification of what your values will be for this next year, or you will shortly. So that is a concern for us. This is not a time to be raising taxes, and we were fully aware of that. I also want to point out some key dates. So right now, the next key date coming up is May 18th. That's Monday. That's when gyms are able to open with certain precautions in place. That's when also some cities may be able to go from 25% occupancy to 50%. Of course, businesses in Kerr County are already at 50%. So I expect the governor to make a public announcement or issue a new order before Monday or on Monday. So we'll be watching for that. And then finally, just a note here about our police officers. This is National Police Officer Week. Normally we would do a memorial on Friday in honor of the fallen officers across the state. We're not able to do that. We'll have a small quiet ceremony instead because of the need to social distance, but please keep our officers in your prayers as they continue to serve us in our community. So this concludes this week's community update. Thanks for joining us, and please tune in next Thursday at the same time. Good health and God bless. Thank you.